By 1937, it would break all box office records with the release of Snow White and the Seven Dwarves.
They made $36 at the box office. It's a new record.
Back then, $36 was millions and millions of dollars.
Hey, that's a lot of money for you people.
Whoa! Look at this bitch's face.
I still like this though because it's all like, wait, so how Disney run culture? It's like we haven't got there yet. It's like no, not yet. He's still getting there. We're almost
laying the groundwork.
Early on, success was predicated on a simple formula. Find an existing story, make it as cute and wholesome as possible to maximize your potential audience, and then dive into your Scrooge McDuck-sized money pool.
People love
Sounds like
referencing this
Markiplier.
every time they talk about people having lots of money. It's always Scrooge McDuck. Poor guy just wants to swim in his coins. Leave him alone.
You gotta give it to Scrooge McDuck. He jumped in there and didn't break his neck.
Exactly. That shows that he must be incredibly dense to be able to like.
Of course, you might think this is fine. After all, pop culture is, by definition, entertainment aimed at the largest possible audience. And Disney definitely...
Is it? Let me look that up. Pop culture.
I mean, popular culture would just be whatever's popular, right?
Pop culture, modern popular culture transmitted via the mass media and aimed particularly at younger people. So they fucked up.
I guess they're going literal, like popular, therefore...
No, but he specifically said that it's aimed at the widest possible audience, and not that it just happened to appeal to the widest possible audience. You know, because the way he's defining pop culture implies that, like, oh, yeah, we know this is going to appeal to everyone, let's do it. Instead of, like, it became really popular. Yeah.
That's probably why he came to that conclusion.
But it's just kind of it's a weird way to define pop culture. But it's a minor point.
Yeah.
It's modern pop culture.
Mod pop cult. That's the cool way to say it.
The whole by definition thing is a lot like the like one name and one name only. It's like, did you guys proofread this script at all?
really had one thing. An aesthetic. You know, round faces, saucer eyes, big goofy grins, and if the kids love it,
Japanese anime.
It's not a big goofy grin.
No round faces, saucer eyes, big goofy grins, and if the kids love
saucer eyes,
I wouldn't call them saucer eyes. I just call them eyes.
How could it be bad? But as we've mentioned before, Disney's reign of cuteness was not a happy accident or mere coincidence. Walt was basically ruthless.
Well, of course, they wanted to make a show kids would like, so they tried that and did
also,
it.
Like cutesy characters.
You make it sound nefarious.
Yeah, and cutesy characters.
Oh, he does a lot of that. It's all very nefarious.
It's like, can you believe this company wanted to just make cars that people would buy and drive around?
Oh, that's why Hitler came up with Volkswagen to compete with the Model T.
You're just trying to take over the world. That was step one.
How nefarious that they wanted to create these products with a bunch of appeal and features and quality to get people to like them.
I just find this.
They want you to think.
It's like the reverse way to look at it. He's like, oh look, they did these cute features to manipulate people into. It's like, well, I mean, that's cute. That's what we do. That's what it is.
Yeah.
This is well before Disney drew his first cartoon. He obviously would have known what people think is cute, and like, why would you? What? Yeah, everything does this.
But as we've mentioned before, Disney's reign of cuteness was not a happy accident or mere coincidence. Walt was basically ruthless in his quest to make all things adorable, and in the process,
Ruthless to make things adorable.
Everything has to be this nefarious, maniacal plot.
Basically, Walt Disney sounds like Pokemon.
Yeah. They talk with the baby voice. How do they even do that? The Twitch people when they do the baby shit. What is it like? How did that happen?
I don't know.
It's terrifying in its own way.
Yeah, that's what this video is. This video is gargoyle cringe.
Yes.
I learned if you want to do baby talk, you replace R's with W's.
Ugh. See, that's the thing. Even the idea of impersonating it, I'm like, no, stop. Get away.
the last 100 years acquiring stories, adapting them, and ultimately twisting their original artistic intentions beyond recognition.
Wow, I'm sure we haven't been doing that for tens of thousands of years.
Yep, that's kind of just a norm.
Yeah.
I'd be curious why we would see that as an issue in terms of they're making children's versions of the stories.
And also like everything about his phrasing makes it seem malevolent, twisting the original meaning. Like, no, what if they just want to make their own take on it? Like, you think when Thomas Mallory was writing The Once and Future King, he was like, I'm going to twist and manipulate Le Mort d'Arthur so that it could have these influences so I could mind control the brainwaves of romanticism. No, he wasn't. Jesus Christ. Making everything sound evil.
And also, I want to point out how bold his claim actually was, because they've spent the last 100 years twisting things beyond beyond recognition from what they were originally. Like, he's saying that's what Disney has like basically exclusively done for 100 years. It's like, really, they didn't make anything original. They didn't do anything that's actually quite similar to the original source material. They didn't do any of that, did they?
I'd like to make a slight correction to my last quasi pseudo joke. It was Thomas Mallory wrote Le Mort d'Arthur. It was T.H. White who wrote The Once and Future King.
Yeah, because
so,
someone in the comments.
No one in the comments needs to correct me on that.
They still will. They will have paused already. And
they'll write up their comment. They've posted it. Then they've proceeded 20 seconds further, and they're like, you know what? I'm just going to leave it up.
It's fine.
Because I want everyone to know that I know that.
In rags. Getting it wrong again.
All of which is to say, is all this cuteness actually super uncute? But to see the Disney method in action, let's dissect an early example, Pinocchio. For the uninitiated, the story revolves around the titular puppet who just wants to be a...
Oh, that fairy's titular. Yeah, boy.
Real boy. As the magical blue fairy tells him his wish will be granted if he proves to be brave, truthful, and unselfish.
And someday you will be a real boy.
A real boy!
But Pinocchio's not about that life. He runs away from home, joins a puppet show, and lies to the blue fairy.
Well, it's not that he's not about that life, it's that he's been manipulated and he's being tricked by bad influences.
Yes.
I mean, he was like almost literally born yesterday, so cut him some slack. I mean, not a lot because he's a puppet, but...
He was born yesterday, but he could form coherent thoughts. I don't know.
He's still very childlike.
Drug dealers.
Very impressionable.
I'm not really sure where this guy's going with like Pinocchio in particular, but you're dealing with a really symbolic story here that if you analyze it on a surface level, like there's a bunch of shit that you can pick apart about the plot where it's just like, and then he goes in the ocean and meets a whale and his dad's in there. Like, what's the deal with that?
It's like that's a very
down there.
What's the deal with that?
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Well, and I'm still just like, what are you doing? He's such suspicious. Like, what are we up to here?
Where are we going with this?
You had a goal to walk in. This was easy, and now it's like getting weird.
Wisecrack, just tell me how Disney ruined culture.
Lets him off the hook, but Pinocchio doesn't stay out of trouble for long. He's soon whisked away on an all-expense trip to the dubiously named pleasure.
All-expense paid
An all-expense trip?
An all-expense trip. That means he had to pay for everything. All expenses are yours, Pinocchio.
Don't let this guy do a video on sex trafficking, because it'll make it sound like a paradise.
I feel like there's a lot of
Pinocchio had to
reasons
sell
you would
his
want to see
nose
that.
for
but yeah.
matchsticks to make money.
Now looking back at this, I realized that he went to Neverland Ranch.
Neat.
Island. There, Pinocchio and his resort buddies engage in all sorts of vices, from drinking to smoking to gambling, only to find out that they're turning into donkeys. But with the help of his cricket companion, Pinocchio narrowly escapes, only to learn that his daddy got lost at sea looking for him.
It says here he went looking for you, and he was swallowed by a...
Oh, just kidding.
Walla, I say, wah.
Why does the dad have a gold felt marker?
It's
Because
pretty awesome.
he got loaded when he was a puppeteer.
Yeah, all expenses paid.
He made puppets for the king.
a whale.
He made
Pinocchio
sex
then-
puppets.
Oh god,
no.
that image.
Get wood when you get wood.
Dude, I think it would be great if their video is called How Disney Killed Culture, and that's just the thumbnail.
This is the new EFAP logo. Just a quasi-anthropomorphic half puppet, half animal lying face down in a puddle.
Dude, there's so much you can pull out of this. It's like they tried to make everything all at once, and all it did was drown.
That's
its
good
own
animation.
film.
Even by
Nope,
today's
up his
standards.
hand is on like backwards.
Wonderful.
sacrifices his little wooden
Actually, it's very
life to save
possible.
the
I've fallen
old...
off a roof looking like that.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Well, luckily
Pinocchio.
the puddle softened your fall.
It didn't soften my
Man,
friend's
from the-
fall. It broke his arm.
Oh no.
Oh no.
If you were a puppet, you could have just been repaired easily.
That's
Humans,
true.
They can't heal.
Followed by a whale.
Pinocchio then sacrifices his little wooden life to save the old man from the literal belly of the whale. But lo and behold, now that Pinocchio is good, he's brought back to life by the blue.
Now that he's good.
I'm like curious. Why are we like going over everything Disney like has made?
This is the thing. It's like we're getting so close to actually trying to make a point. I don't know when. When does it happen? In this video?
No, it's really Disney ruined culture by showing that even if you're a small kid and you've made mistakes in the past, you could still do virtuous acts that get repaid in some way. Very. This is evil. This is ruining culture.
This video
It's funny
lacks
that-
focus.
That's almost exactly what I said in my video, Regs.
Oh,
yeah,
is
'cause-
it? Uh-huh.
yeah, no, it's just interesting because
I believe it.
yeah, we'll get into it as he goes, but basically he thinks this version is it's like 100% cute and wholesome, and apparently he forgot the part where he's basically sold into like chattel slavery, but well, and like when he died and he had to go into the whale and all that stuff, but yeah, it's just all ruthlessly cute and wholesome. That's all it is.
So perhaps we could have a slight tangent, but does Pinocchio qualify as a bundle of sticks, dare I say?
Oh my god. Susan, no.
Say the line!
Fairy, time as a real boy. And everyone lives happily ever after. If only life was that easy.
Except Jiminy Cricket, who, as a cricket, died next winter.
But what if I told you that the author of Pinocchio, Carlo Collodi, never intended for his story to give children that warm, fuzzy feeling?
Wow, what if I told you I don't give a
what if I told you I don't give a fuck about what Carlos said?
what if I told you I literally don't care about what some dead Italian thought? I just really do not give a fuck. I assume he's Italian, but I just don't care.
What do I care about some dead Italian thought?
I'm just
Rigatoni and rigor mortis.
my name is Pokemonizia.
And that once Disney bought the rights to the story, the company whitewashed Pinocchio to fit the Big Mouse's cutesy aesthetic. If you have any doubt, then I present to you the original ending of Collodi's Pinocchio. Without loss of time, they tied his arms, passed a running noose round his throat, and hung him to the...
What's your point?
Oh wow!
Okay, well, obviously they weren't going to animate this for their kids show.
Why would they
lynched
put
Pinocchio.
this in the
Dipshit.
book?
Okay, wait. I think I know what their point is. Like they took all these edgy stories and made them all pussified.
My god.
Now we can't. Now we can't. What? Now we can't have our kids be all depressed by these stories, by the dark stories. There's no way.
Yeah, pretty much. Honestly,
Instead,
pretty
we
much.
turn these things that no one knew about into timeless classic, teaching good morals to children. They ruined culture.
It's like the first ending they did was coming out from drowning from that pool. He's just dragged to a tree and hanged. Like I don't know. Like
The third act of this movie is a really dark turn. Wow.
he coughs up the water just to realize he's being hanged. Like, aw.
They resuscitate him and save him from drowning so that they can subsequently hang him.
Wait, if he's made of wood, how the f do you hang him?
Wow.
From
you don't even know.
if you hang him from a tree, maybe he just doesn't die. He just hangs up there forever until.
I was actually going to go that direction. It's like he's left there for thousands of years. He can't move. He's just like, oh god.
He goes mad.
He's bored to death hanging up there. That's the execution.
And
So what if
Just
this
like,
is this
cut
guy
me down, please?
is this guy gonna make a video about like how DC comics are ruining, or the DC movies are ruining comics by changing the tones and stuff of superheroes, like Superman and stuff? Are we gonna get that? Are they gonna be consistent? Like every time
No.
you take an old thing and adapt it into sort of a new style, or change around the details of it and kind of turn it into your own thing.
The funny thing
Is
about
that ruining culture, or is that an explanation of how culture flourishes? That things change and evolve and grow.
I don't know. A lot of things going on now does not feel like a step forward. If I had to read one more gender pronoun, I might lose my goddamn mind.
Well, I guess that's the
No, you
difference,
see-
right? Like whether or not it's well written is actually the focus, not whether or not it's tonally dumbed down or cranked up. Like that's not really. It would just be nice if things made sense. Why don't we try that crazy idea right now.
I think if they hung Pinocchio, it would have stuck in my memory more than the way it did. Or whatever the fuck happened.
Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie, I want to see that version.
Yeah, me too. Get the animating.
In the case of adapting a previous work, like it depends what you do with it. Like you can make something better or worse. And like you can take the original idea or intent and enhance it. It just depends what you do with it, right? It's not necessarily a bad thing to like reboot or rejuvenate something or whatever.
I think an important element is what Rags mentioned. It's like, who even knew this story? Like who out there was like, oh my god, you've ruined Pinocchio bad.
Maybe everybody knew about Carlos Colgate's whatever puppet story. Maybe everyone knew about it, and then Disney came in, but I don't know. But if they did, that doesn't change anything.
Mm-hmm.
But why are people more keen on the new version? I mean,
yeah, I think maybe there's something there. Why do they find it more appealing? Something's going on.
Yeah. And it's not like the old story disappeared. The old story wasn't erased from history. Yeah, you can just Google original story and you'll find it.
I will say, like, when that Pocahontas movie came out, I did have a chick talk to me about how sweet it was and how it was a great film and she needed to find a love like Pocahontas and John Smith. And I'm like, girl, Pocahontas was raped by that dude. It wasn't some fantastic love story. And she was 30. So there's probably people who didn't bother to check in.
I mean, I'm sure out there there are idiots who think that a Disney movie is a reflection of reality, but I don't know if we're going to save them anyway.
I love the idea you're watching Pinocchio.
They kind of run the world in the show, Rags.
They're watching Pinocchio. They're like, oh, this is such a wholesome story.
They're the majority. We're the minority.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, like that Pinocchio story. There's such dark shit that in there in the original one, but then Disney comes along and said, okay, well, let's just extract the good fluffiness from that and then try to tell a story that like leaves the dark stuff behind, but the good stuff made into a movie in its own right doesn't have to necessarily be bad in the mere fact that it exists.
And then Walt Disney also said in passing, I'm going to screw over that dirty wop, and the rest is history.
We could have one day adapt Pinocchio again and get Tarantino to do it. We'll see.
Oh yeah, Tarantino Pinocchio. That'd be crazy.
Call it strings.
Hanging by his own strings by the end of it. That'd be great.
Before you know it, John Travolta shows up for no reason.
A tempestuous northerly wind began to blow and roar angrily, and it beat the puppet from side to side, making him swing back.
His eyes are so dead. He looks like a psycho talking about this shit.
Oh man, that was a red pill if I ever got one.
He's like, you need to know of the story of Pinocchio.
Guys, great. I take it back. Wisecrack is doing good stuff.
Silently, like the clatter of a bell ringing for a wedding, and the swinging gave him atrocious spasms. It's really bad.
Dr.
His
Meatball
breath
and
failed
you're an idiot.
and he could say no more.
Hey, dude, can you blink, please? Oh, there
you go.
Opened his mouth, stretched his legs, and gave a long shudder, and hung stiff and insensible.
Oh, that was...
Wow, this guy's a great writer.
I hope he's okay.
This looks like the kind of person who'd get PTSD from shooting a Glock.
Yeah, it would be like he's
a journalist.
Yeah, he's a journalist, yeah.
Does he, Rex? Be honest, you have to put in a video game at the end of that, and it'll probably still be true. Like, this is terrifying. Make him play Killing Floor.
You're right. Collodi had Pinocchio gruesomely hanged. This inspired so much angry fan mail that his editor demanded he bring the puppet back to life and continue the series, which he begrudgingly did. In Collodi's defense, though, Pinocchio...
Yeah, why would anyone ever change that ending? It's just so great.
They're like... Everyone really liked the story except for the ending. They're like, the ending. Do you mind? Like,
the ending where you hang the puppet? Maybe you got some demons to sort out, but
we kind of need to make this little guy marketable. If you could, make it so he comes back.
People like the cute stuff. Can you do more of the cute stuff?
Can you have a cute hanging?
The fucking creator sitting there with his cup of vodka and his coffee and his cigarette. La mort, my friend. This is my art.
Then once again, they're like...
And Walt Disney comes in. He's like, the story's great, I'll buy it.
Please adapt
Get these smelly wops out of here. In the rest,
was the character of the puppet that is hanged at the end.
They remove the hanging scene. They're like, "How's it looking now?" And he's like, "Well, this is the first image we've gotten back from the anime." You're like, "Oh."
This is just that's what they put on the VHS. That's just the cover. Pinocchio.
No.
I never knew Pinocchio was so edgy. It's changed my respect for the whole story.
Yeah.
Pinocchio's metal, odd as it sounds.
Pinocchio, bro.
Yeah, let's keep in mind also that the original audience of the story didn't even like his grimdark ending, and yet Wisecrack is gonna argue that like Disney did like an awful thing and is ruining culture by changing the ending.
Let me show you how the original thing was. Why Disney was bad for changing it. I'm like, I don't know. You have an odd strategy, Wisecrack, but I mean,
I don't know. Like, look how just shitty people are today. Maybe if they saw Pinocchio die in a tree, they might think twice about being a prick on Twitter and canceling people.
It's so subversive. My expectations were subverted. This is Justin Pinocchio's character to get hanged like this in a violent storm.
It's just
because life isn't fair. It's true.
Being hanged was pretty much
Pinocchio, directed by Ryan Johnson.
Oh God.
You wouldn't just hang him. You would have him drown in piss.
Catch up fire randomly.
What? He's hanged.
He's hanging.
He's struck by a bolt of lightning.
He swings
into flames
so hard they rub against each other, and since his legs are sticks, it creates fire and he burns. It's thematic about his struggles making things worse.
It's such a wonderful story.
He brings
Oh
the
my
puppet
God,
back
it
to
makes
life
so
and
much
continued the
sense.
series, which he begrudgingly did. In Collodi's defense, though, Pinocchio being hanged was pretty much par for the course.
No, everything
that could happen in Italy.
That's great. That's a quote right there.
This is so funny out of context. Pinocchio being hanged, which is par for the course.
Puppets getting hanged is like wet bread.
After Pinocchio's vicious tweets, he was hung.
Just par for the course.
Canceled Pinocchio at the Big Oak.
We technically hang people every day on Twitter when they're canceled. We don't need her to be Siri. She said something I don't like about coronavirus. Cancel her. Hang her.
I think we might bring back hangings, I don't know why not. Like, it's kind of a fun, like people talking about how with the end of theaters, like social events are going further down and down with COVID and stuff. I think like hangings might bring people back together.
And then we'll like gradually go back to the guillotine. It's just, I see this. It would be so much cheaper tax-wise. Like, think about it. A rope, boom. How much money are we saving?
Rotten fruit and veg, you have a place to get rid of it. This is a good thing that's going to happen. I'm proud of us.
It's hard to see in
Pinocchio
Disney's
travels the Ho Chi Minh Trail.
Oh, Pinocchio, you are always up to something, little buddy.
version.
I live in
Pinocchio was
opium. That's my kind of Pinocchio.
intended to be a tongue-in-cheek, albeit bleak, morality tale. The simple moral? Be good or suffer. Throughout this... Be
Animation!
Is he wrong, though? They used to beat the hell out of their kids back then.
Be good or suffer. You're like,
You
"Alright."
could die from a beating back then.
Yeah, I mean, you
And
know.
that was okay.
And they decided to tell that same story with a few edits. Actually, I want to add that to the quotes, too. Be kind or suffer. It's fucking wonderful.
Be good or suffer.
The themes.
Yeah, it's pretty much what Mama Susan tells us.
Yeah, be kind. You know, it's generally more. It's hard to figure out exactly what they mean by it, but I think you can get there eventually.
Someone pointed out that being crushed by an anvil isn't exactly suffering because you die in an instant.
Good point.
That coyote seems to have been suffering for years.
He's hit so many anvils. Like, what's going on?
story, we see a mean-spirited and rude Pinocchio.
Did you add a picnic basket to the picture? Why? In a bag? Why did you
Well,
add the
you said he was traveling the Ho Chi Minh Trail, so he has to carry his goods.
Right.
He's bartering.
Well, I think you mean our goods, comrade.
Yes.
Oh, my fault. I'm still on that communism kick.
Hey, our fault.
Oh, well, I don't mind sharing the blame.
Yeah, that works out.
And for all
We don't
misbehaving
mind.
children. robbed, starved, stabbed.
Oh, there it is.
And also, his legs get sawed off. But
Jesus,
we're not
wait.
supposed to feel especially sorry for him. His
He was
actions
robbed
cause all of
and
his suffering.
stabbed?
Oh, as if
Pinocchio
that
had my
wasn't enough.
childhood.
Whoa.
What could he have possibly done that made him deserve that where I wouldn't feel bad? Is he like a mass murdering psychopath?
What did he do?
He did something
he's
naughty.
bad. He's rude.
He's a total
so
dick.
you're not
He
supposed
made
to
some
feel bad for
unsavory
him.
Twitter posts.
Even though he's supposed to be the protagonist you're meant to identify with, he's rude. So you're not supposed to feel bad when his legs get sawed off.
Have you ever dealt with a really shitty kid? I would write this sort of story too. Now that I think about it.
I like the idea that when writing it, they're like, he was stabbed, he was robbed, also cut his legs off, I guess. Like,
All right,
why?
the leg cutting off I can't relate to, but the stabbing and robbing sounded like my childhood, man.
Like, sir, he's gonna die anyway. It's like, no, he's a puppet. Take the legs.
Oh God, how cruel!
Oh, cruel. Suffering.
Behaving children, robbed, starved, stabbed. And also, his legs get sawed off. But we're not supposed to feel especially sorry for him. His actions cause all of his suffering. Oh, and if that wasn't enough, Collodi also heaped on the psychological abuse, making Pinocchio at one point think he had killed Geppetto and the Blue Fairy, which
Wow.
I didn't even know.
I don't know how you, let alone killed the Blue Fairy. I don't know, maybe it's as simple as popping her with a Glock, but I feel like a puppet accidentally thinking you killed both of them? Jeez, what's this puppet been up to?
What was the context?
Well, he said he had psychological damage. He was doing opium on the Ho Chi Minh Trail.
You really are like there's so much effort here to make me be like, yeah, this is so much superior to the classic Pinocchio movie, you know? And
I feel
bad.
Pinocchio's more complex now.
Yeah, this was they're right. Disney ruined it.
What was possible. And while you and I
don't know if Disney does this, but I would feel a lot better about their adaptations if they had in the credits, like based on the short story or the original story by such and such. And just so like to prevent people from like looking at Pinocchio and saying, oh, Disney invented Pinocchio, like as if like nothing ever came before it. Like they should take the opportunity to say like, no, this was based on this original thing that actually has a lot more wisdom in it, you know. We've taken all the bad stuff out of it, but you know,
We've
the
just
bad stuff actually has a role to play.
This is the thing. If they said like, go check out this story, they would probably need a whole bunch of like, warning.
I do take issue with the idea that they took all the bad stuff out because, like, if you remember Pinocchio, there's a whole lot of rather horrifying things that happen, like from a child's perspective. You know, like turning into a donkey and being sold into slavery. Yeah, I guess
not everything. That was an overstatement. Yeah,
yeah.
But anything.
No,
like
but that's what
particularly
Wisecrack.
horrible.
Yeah, I know you don't mean that, but that's what Wisecrack legitimately means. That's the main point.
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
The Yakuzas robbed him, stabbed him, and cut off his legs. Pinocchio was hanging out with Curio in the 80s.
Oh, God.
Growing up in a media diet full of high saturated Disney cuteness might find the story repulsive. It's pretty run-of-the-mill if you're familiar with old German folklore. More recently, we've seen similarly gothic tones in children's
Yeah, I was like, how come one? Why is one better than the other necessarily?
Yeah, the Germans didn't around.
They ruined culture because it's not like old German folklore.
No wonder the Germans damn near took over the world. This is what they were giving their kids.
Yeah, geez.
Look at what like the kids watch today and how pussified they are.
Yeah, our
I was
kids
reading a
are-
journalist talking
forming
about
it.
his son scaring him.
Our kids need more hangings. There, I said
Our
it.
kids
If you fuck up on the wrong side of East LA, you're gonna be stabbed and robbed. It's still true to this day.
Germans back then were invading Europe. Our kids are like hanging themselves because they got misgendered on Twitter. Like
pretty much.
Well, that's not what I meant by bringing back hangings. Damn it, it's all backfiring. No, just get encouraged to hang your oppressors. That's the idea behind Pinocchio, right? Because he got revenge in Pinocchio too.
Pinocchio 2, First Blood.
This time he's pissed.
Books like Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. Now, let's be fair. Maybe you don't want your kid's bedtime story ending in gruesome death, but there's still something.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, maybe you don't. But have you considered you're ruining culture?
Yeah.
I can imagine a parent buys the original for their kid, and they're going through it. They're reading it to him as a bedtime story, and they get to the end, and they're like, and then Pinocchio took the rowboat, and he went to a happy island full of other puppets, and he lived happily forever. All right, good night, Jimmy.
Puppet wife, puppet kids. It was great.
Yeah.
Don't Google this.
I don't think Jimmy was. And then Pinocchio started dealing opium.
Happily ever after. Like, aw.
Pinocchio.
He got himself new gold legs.
Sweet.
And hose.
That's really interesting, you know, like the amount of negativity that's in like a lot of these old like folklore stories. But then when you're reading reading a story to a kid at bedtime, you want to leave them on like an uplifting note where they can actually go to sleep and not just be like sitting there in the dark, wide-eyed, like, oh my god, the world is a terrible place.
Generally, I think there's probably a decent reason why we stopped teaching young children stories that were really super dark and everything. Because we're like,
well, they could have died by the time they were 30 back then.
I am.
We have to supercharge your moral education because you're gonna die in a week. So we're gonna talk about this.
You might die.
To make them work in
Let me tell you about
factories
Pinocchio.
too.
I'm reading you this bedtime story because you might not wake up for a random reason. So listen up.
Let me tell you about polio, Timmy. You need to understand.
Pinocchio.
But then, they kept the stories, but technology advanced. It's like, Mom, will I die? It's like, no, actually, you're gonna be fine. So I'm not gonna read this
You're
at all.
gonna live forever unless your social credit score is too low. Then we cancel you for good. Welcome to Cyberpunk 2020.
Yay.
Unsettling about the way a media giant like Disney can take a beloved fairy tale, purge it of its original intentions, and thus rewrite the narrative.
Just because you change how the story ends doesn't mean you've purged it of its intentions. You think there's only one way to convey a theme or a moral?
Yes. Right.
Jeez.
Yeah, the way they frame this is so malicious. Like,
the puppet's gotta die, okay? By hanging in a storm.
And besides,
it pretty much sums up capitalism. Like, the mainstream version of Pinocchio is cleaned up and friendly, so more people like it, enjoy it, and buy it. The real story is dark, sad, and realistic as to how the world really is. But then again, they weren't trying to sell you a story. They were trying to get you pumped up for picking cotton tomorrow.
No, I don't agree that the original is how the world is and the Disney one isn't. Just the Disney one offers the possibility of redemption and the original doesn't.
But there isn't much redemption today.
There's bits and bobs here and there.
Johnny Depp is still fucked, let's face it.
Well,
it's more or less the same moral, except in the end, you can change you can become a better person. In the original, it's like, nah, just don't be bad or you die.
Don't be bad, especially if you being bad is the result of...
Don't make bad choices or you die.
I want to highlight, by the way...
making bad choices. It's like, don't get tricked by people. Or you're going to suffer. And it's like, I hope I don't get tricked by people then. Sorry.
Well, you know what? Don't trust people who look like this. That's what the film's trying to say.
Yeah, you see a fox rolling up on you in a cape, but you know something's wrong.
If you see a cop, you got your cop.
You see a cop, stop, drop, and put your hand behind your head, you'll live a little longer.
Yeah,
I've been shaken up by a few cops in my time, so I know.
Like the idea that, they didn't have the hanging scene. It's like they've clearly got the breaking his neck scene right here. So
yeah.
Please, said you have some.
You didn't die like the other children. Are you made of wood?
You'll make a fantastic donkey, boy. You'll never get tired.
Fox, ignore me.
Come over here. We're going to Neverland Ranch.
A collective memory. Instead of staying faithful to Collodi's artistic intention, Disney did what it would continue to do for decades. Buy a story, bleach it in a caustic...
I never get the whole hat thing in bed. Why would you wear more clothes to bed?
Well, back then they didn't have heaters, bro. So you had to wear a hat to keep your head warm.
It is warmer, yeah.
Vat of cuteness and to contention, Disney did what it would continue
to do. I think most homes
for
back then only had a fireplace. You didn't have one in your room unless you're like Scrooge McDuck.
And you had a gold fireplace.
Yeah.
So you literally had to dress like you were going outside to keep from freezing to death overnight.
Decades. Buy a story.
The good old days.
Bleach it in a caustic vat of cuteness and
people
pump it
were
out.
better then.
Buy a story.
The vat of cuteness.
Yeah.
It's like sort of cute, but like, calm down.
This is what I'm getting a little lost with this. It's like, it's not like we're dealing with, hyper insane cute stuff where everything's like bubbly and soft edges everywhere. Like, because there's scary shit in in Disney movies, especially the classic ones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, his whole MO in this video is, there's nothing dark in the Disney versions, and to make that argument, I'm going to ignore all the dark things in the Disney versions.
Wait a
I was
minute.
sitting here thinking, like, he's going to talk about how they've just basically ruined IPs, but it's this.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's so weird. It's like they're cutesifying everything. You're like, what?
Well, this video is going to turn into like the last Wisecrack video, which is a 20-minute video that doesn't really explain anything approaching the point and gets everything wrong.
Yeah,
it's always fun.
I think that their MO on YouTube was to find a point no one else is making and prove it to be some degree of true, and they've gotten so lost lately. It's like, this is like, why did you say this?
Out in exchange for cold, hard cash. Gone were the dark, satiric overtones, and in their place were syrupy lines like this.
Thank you, milady. He deserved to be a real boy.
As for Pinocchio himself,
milady?
That is pretty gay.
It's pretty gay.
As he tipped his fedora.
Why do you use that as like an example of look what they did? You're like, okay.
Right, yeah.
Fedora.
Also, there's like a very stereotypically black cricket outside. Thank you, milady. Nothing wrong there.
They don't remove the satiric undertones or overtones or whatever he said. They're just different in this movie. Like, it has a happy ending, but all the same like trials and tribulations are also dark and also satiric and also have morals to convey to children.
So, like, I'm curious
if this video isn't fun.
If in like 100 years, a new company like this, a Martian company from like called Dobney, and it just takes over everything, and it eats all of Disney
Chinese
stuff
company
too, and it remakes Pinocchio, because they're remaking Pinocchio again. Like, what if they remake it and it's even more sanitized? Would you then be like, you've ruined Disney's message? You've ruined it. And it's like, no, they ruined the other one. No, turns out like the original Pinocchio was based on like a story some friend told him about a puppet he used to play with. It's like, you ruined that guy's story with your stupid story.
Yeah. Like Braggers was saying earlier, I mean, just because you deviate from like the original execution, that doesn't the new themes have deteriorated at all. I mean, one of my favorite things that not just Disney but ever is The Fox and the Hound, which is a Disney cartoon, and I'm sure that's based off of an original short story that was probably much darker, but like I love that movie, and that's one of the like, it's so impactful and it's such a grounded story about what it means to grow up, and like the roles that we play, and like because they're kind of like, they grow up into these roles where they're conditioned to hate each other even though they're childhood friends. Like there's really powerful message there to absorb as a kid, and that's a very valuable film to watch, I
would say the same thing about Pinocchio, honestly.
Right, I agree. Pinocchio's great. I just have a soft spot in particular for The Fox and the Hound because that was one of the first things I ever saw.
Man, I've seen both those films. I can't tell you shit about them or Pinocchio. It's like I'm seeing it again. I'm like, oh, he went to Neverland Ranch. My adult eyes. The fox, he's a drug dealer. That makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much I actually really liked Pinocchio until Wisecrack started shitting all over it. I was like, wait a minute, that movie was actually really good. And I watched it again, and it's still good.
Telling me it's such a wholesome movie when you see that, you're like,
Pinocchio's at the strip club.
Himself, he went from being a total frat bro to the naive piece of pie.
Bitch.
Oh my god, he really is. Look at him. He's like, this is my kind
like that.
Thank you, milady. He deserved to be a real boy.
As for Pinocchio himself, he went from being a total frat bro to the naive piece of pine we know and love today. In the process,
why are you insulting him for that?
Why? What is with this?
Why are you trying to frame everything in the most just dishonest and illy suited way possible? The most uncharitable way to ever phrase anything, and they have to go with it.
Bro, what's your issue with Pinocchio? Why like, what did he do to you when you were younger? You're like, fuck this piece of shit.
Go back to being a frat bro. Who got his legs cut off.
Hashtag
I like it better when it was grimdark, like a Zack Snyder movie.
I want to see that now. Like, you already see the opening shot. His head is like hunched over. He's a silhouette, and it slowly raises up. It's like, they never took me seriously.
It
and
opens.
it's a Jesus metaphor now. I just does.
What we did, the Pinocchio remake, it opens like Halo Reach with a helmet on a scarred and charred landscape, but it's Pinocchio's head.
It's Pinocchio's hat.
We learned how it happened. No, we're going dark. We're going all the way.
I also,
go around pussy in our
as a direct comparison as well with that last image of like, oh god, that's creepy. It's like, yeah, well, look how creepy the original was. It's like, I mean, he looks kind of lame.
I'm happy to be clearly lying.
Yeah, look at him. He's got a big old boner from lying. What a piece of shit.
Also, I really like the idea of the Zack Snyder Pinocchio starting with him hanging from the tree, and then narration comes like, "Yep, that's me. Bet you're wondering how I ended up here."
It's already writing itself.
It's so funny because this guy's like this audience, they're all like interested, I guess, in what he has to say, but he's like ranting about the bleaching of Pinocchio, and everyone's like, all right.
I don't even think he's ranting. He's going through it so friendly and casually.
Oh, this is
one of the top comments on the Wisecrack like actual video is someone who said like, "Why Disney is ruining," that I liked. Like they didn't like they liked it before he actually made any of the arguments. Like he's hating on Disney. I like it. Like that's what a lot of the people in the comment section were like.
Character design underwent similar changes, with Walt Disney scrapping the angular designs found in Collodi's story for a character model that can best be described as what would happen if Mickey Mouse had a baby with a tree.
What? Where'd you get that?
Sorry, I'm like babies and trees right now. I can't.
Yeah, there's a lot to process there. Yeah. And I feel Pinocchio is summing it up in terms of a facial response to that statement. You're like, all right.
What's sad is that the animation for Pinocchio is stellar.
Yeah,
I mean,
compared to the shit we see today.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a great looking movie. Honestly, when did it come out? Pinocchio,
Probably
1940. 1940, and it still looks pretty great.
Back before Tumblr, artists had to have talent.
Like everything today is that 2D motion tweening shit, like that you see in a lot of Macromedia Flash stuff. And when I say 2D, I mean like obviously it was 2D back then, but there was a three-dimensionality to the way it was all drawn and animated, as opposed to now, where everything looks flat as.
And now they've got layers with the backgrounds and how they would do things, and you can have one on top of the other. And there was a lot. It seemed like the scenes had a lot more depth to them, and
yes,
they weren't just on a. It's not like I was looking at paint, not even 2021 paint, like 2020 paint, like the shitty one. The old stuff was just so much more kind of a lot of work went into it.
I know, it's such a shame.
Precise, mechanical way. It's like when you watch a claymation show, but you could still see the little finger indentations on the clay, and you're like,
I like that. Yeah. The companies don't want to put that kind of work into it anymore. It's all just, how can we get this done for the cheapest amount of money possible? Everything just looks flat as now. It sucks.
I was just thinking about like the construction of this joke. So he was like, he's like a Mickey Mouse but wooden. Where does wood come from? Trees. Mickey Mouse to tree. That works. That's funny enough. Like, okay.
You can't argue that it didn't work just now.
Yeah, but the process of designing the joke is funny because of how retarded it is. Like,
it's always in the delivery. They got the wrong guy to deliver the lie.
Yeah.
Obviously, Collodi's estate was kind of pissed, with his grandson suing Disney's Italian distributor for infringing on the moral copyright of the story.
Moral thing.
No.
Moral
especially
copyright.
if it's
Now, I know what...
Wait. Hold on. Let's stop for a second.
Look how just happy this guy is.
So
he just told me Pinocchio was killed viciously and died spasming on a rope. But I've never seen anyone with such a great smile after delivering it.
Okay, hold on. We got to stop for a second, because in that article that he just cited, it says specifically that Collodi's grandson hadn't even seen the movie yet when he sued Disney for moral copyright.
Did it say that in a screenshot?
That's not.
Oh yeah, go back to skip back and you can see it on the text. It said he had only seen press reports of it. He hadn't seen it. Because it says, before the film was commercially released in Italy, his grandson for alleged infringement of moral copyright. Hadn't even seen the film yet, and it was I'm
long
suing these
before
guys.
commercial release, huh?
Yep.
More power to him. I would have tried to get my money too.
Just like, can I have some Disney,
Grandpa's
please?
writing these sad, depressing stories. You know, he didn't make a quarter of what Disney made off of Pinocchio.
Disney figured out
my
that
grandpa's legacy. Where's my money?
My grandpa hanged a puppet and he got nothing.
Exactly. It's a crime.
I mean, he
hang
should have
up
got something because they bought the story from him. It wasn't public domain yet, I don't think.
Well, then he probably spent it all on drugs and hookers.
before I let this company die.
And I'll silence anyone who gets in my way. Good reference.
Collodi's estate.
They'll make a live-action version of that in no time. It's gonna be terrible.
Was kind of pissed, with his grandson suing Disney's Italian distributor for infringing on the moral copyright of the story. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's an adaptation. Artists are allowed to adapt, and sure.
Yes, they are. The end.
It's over. Thanks to our sponsor.
We did it. The video's done.
Thanks to our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends.
I like we're all just like, you can stop right there, please. And he's like, there's another half of the video. And you're like, all right.
And sure,
you know, the background's one thing, but then he also decided, he's like, I'm also going to put on a tie-dye shirt. It's like, f you.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't even put on like a more, like, just a black generic kind of shirt with a simple
you're
logo
right.
on it. Like,
yeah, a solid shirt would actually work against the backdrop, but no.
Right, yeah. He had to go that extra mile. It's like, no, my shirt also has to be eye-catching to the point where the...
Can we cut this guy some slack, for God's sake? He's on Wisecrack. He has to tell you how Pinocchio was murdered with a smile on his face. He's obviously, his beard is going gray, and he has to appeal to Zoomers who only give a shit about a guy named Jamin from BTS. The man is doing all he can not to blow his brains out. I salute you, sir. He's just like, today I'm going to wear the tie-dye shirt to just express my positivity.
Goes on the internet, sees this video, and he's like, what is wrong with you people? Why can't you just let me exist?
God, if he commits suicide after this, I'm so distancing myself from that.
Hello, you just listened to a segment of the podcast Every Frame a Pause, or EFAP. Hosted by YouTubers Mauler, Rags, and Fringy, and joined by a cycling variety of guests across the internet, they critically analyze media with exhaustive detail while pausing at every single frame. Subscribe to the EFAP channel and catch new episodes on Saturdays, as well as catch their smaller videos reacting to the latest and not-so-greatest movies and TV shows throughout the week. You can also subscribe here to EFAP highlights for the latest shorts, clips, and supercuts, also uploaded throughout the week. Links to all the relevant channels can be found in the description section below, as well as links to their communities on Reddit and Discord. Thanks for watching.